Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The rain hammered Portland like it had a grudge, sheets of it slapping against the hospital windows at Providence St. Vincent. Inside, the air stank of antiseptic and desperation, a sterile hell where hope came to fray at the edges. Emily Harper stood frozen in the lobby, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, a crumpled medical bill clutched in her fist. The ink was smudged from her sweaty grip. $87,000 for her mom's lung surgery, a number that laughed in her face. Ruth Harper was upstairs, hooked to machines that beeped like a countdown, her breath shallow and ragged. Emily had begged the receptionist earlier, her voice hoarse from days of fighting a system that didn't give a damn. "No payment, no procedure," the woman had said, not even looking up from her paperwork. That was 4 hours ago. Now Emily's phone buzzed in her pocket, an unknown number glowing on the cracked screen. She hesitated, thumb hovering, then answered, her voice a whisper. "Hello? You need money. I need a wife. Let's talk." The voice was deep, rough, like gravel under boots. No hello, no bullshit, just a cold slap of a deal. Her spine stiffened. "Who is this?" she asked, heart thudding. 30 minutes. Caldwell Tower, Seattle. Top floor. Don't be late." The line went dead. She stared at the phone, rain drumming outside. A scam? A prank? Maybe. But desperation was a ruthless bastard and her mom's life was hanging by a thread. She grabbed her bag, the bill still wadded in her fist, and bolted for the Greyhound station. 2 hours later, she stepped into the gleaming lobby of Caldwell Tower, a fortress of glass and steel looming over Seattle's skyline. The elevator ride to the top felt like a lifetime, her reflection in the mirrored walls showing a mess, damp auburn hair plastered to her face, tired hazel eyes, a thrift store jacket clinging to her shoulders. The doors slid open, and there he was, Ethan Caldwell, the billionaire who'd clawed his way up from nothing to rule tech and real estate. A car crash 2 years back had left him paralyzed from the waist down, but even in a sleek black wheelchair behind a massive desk, he radiated power. Dark hair swept back, jaw sharp as a blade, gray eyes slicing through her like she was already figured out. "Sit," he said, voice matching the one from the call. She did, knees shaky as she sank into the leather chair. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, fingers steepled. "I won't waste time. This is a contract marriage, a business deal. You marry me, stick around for a year, and you walk away with $1 million. Cash." Emily blinked, the words crashing over her like the rain outside. $1 million? It sounded insane, like a bad movie plot. "You're serious?" she managed, voice trembling. "Dead serious," he shot back, gaze unwavering. "Sign the contract, play the part, and your problems disappear. Refuse, and you're back to crying in that hospital lobby." She swallowed hard, fist clenching in her lap. "Why me?" "Because you're desperate," he said, flat and brutal. "And because I need someone the press won't dig into. You're a nobody, that's the point." It stung, but he wasn't wrong. She was a nobody. A former med school dropout turned barista, drowning in debt from her dad's gambling days, now scrambling to save her mom. He slid a contract across the desk, crisp paper, black ink spelling out the terms. 1 year, no intimacy, no love, just a public facade. A wife for the cameras to shut up the rumors about his crash and his empire. At the end, $1 million wired to her account. Ruth's surgery, her life, secured. "Your call," Ethan said, leaning back. "But I don't do second chances." Her hands shook as she grabbed the pen, the room shrinking around her. She signed Emily Harper in a jagged scrawl. And just like that, she was tethered to a man who didn't even glance at her as she sealed her fate. Fast forward a week, and Emily was ankle-deep in a world she didn't understand. The wedding was a circus, reporters swarming the Caldwell estate, a sprawling mansion on Lake Washington's edge, all manicured lawns and marble halls. She stood in a borrowed ivory dress feeling like a mannequin, while Ethan sat beside her in a tailored suit, his wheelchair gleaming under chandelier light. The vows were robotic, his "I do" flat as a board. No kiss, no nothing. Just a handshake behind closed doors. "Your room's down the hall," he muttered that night, wheeling off to his wing. "This ain't real. Don't forget it." She nodded, throat tight, and retreated to a guest suite, plush but cold, like a hotel she didn't belong in. She'd expected his distance, braced for it. What she hadn't expected was the chaos waiting in the shadows. That night, restlessness gnawed at her. The estate was too quiet, the kind of silence that presses on your chest. She slipped out of bed barefoot and wandered the halls, the marble cool under her feet. A faint hum, like machinery, caught her ear, coming from the basement stairs. She followed it, pulse ticking up down a narrow corridor she hadn't seen before. The hum grew sharper, mechanical, until she reached a steel door, sealed tight. She pressed her ear to it, and the sound clicked into focus. A steady whir, like hospital equipment. What the hell? The lock was biometric, but the panel was cracked. Someone had forced it. She hesitated, then pushed. The door creaked open, and she stepped into a dim room that hit her like a punch. Antiseptic stench, flickering blue lights, machines lining the walls. Papers littered a table. Nerve regeneration, experimental treatment. And in the corner, Ethan slumped in a chair, hooked to an IV, his face slick with sweat. He twitched, muttering in his sleep, voice raw. "It wasn't an accident. She did it." Emily's breath caught, her hands trembling as she scanned the reports. His condition wasn't permanent. There was a chance, a real shot he could walk again. Why was he hiding this? Before she could process it, his eyes snapped open, gray and wild, locking onto her. "Get out!" he roared, voice cracking like thunder. "You don't belong here!" She stumbled back but held her ground. "You're hiding something that could save you. Why? What's wrong with you?" He gripped the armrests, knuckles white, chest heaving. "You don't get it, do you? I tried, failed. Look at me." He yanked up his shirt, revealing jagged scars across his torso. Botched experiments, self-inflicted wounds. "This is what hope gets you." Her stomach twisted, but she stepped closer, voice shaking but firm. "You're a coward, Ethan. You've got a chance and you're just sitting on it?" His jaw clenched, eyes blazing, but before he could snap back, a shadow loomed in the doorway. Vivian Caldwell, Ethan's stepmom, stood there, tall and elegant, her blonde hair pulled tight, green eyes glinting like a predator's. She smirked, sipping a glass of red wine. "Curiosity killed the cat, darling," she said, voice smooth as silk but sharp as a blade. "You're here to play house, not poke around in things you don't understand." Emily stiffened, heart pounding. "I'm not scared of you." Vivian's laugh was cold, cutting. "Oh, you should be." "Step out of line and I'll make sure you're back on the street where you belong, million or not." The threat hung heavy, chilling the air. Vivian turned and glided away, her heels clicking like a warning shot. Emily stood there staring at Ethan, who'd gone silent, his gaze fixed on the floor. The room felt smaller, the hum louder, and one thought burned in her mind. What have I gotten myself into? She slipped out, back to her room, the report's words, nerve regeneration, high success probability, seared into her brain. She wasn't just a prop in this game. Not anymore. Whatever Ethan was hiding, whatever Vivian was guarding, she'd find out. Even if it killed her. Hey folks, what's Ethan running from? And just how far will Vivian go to keep her secrets buried? This is only the start of Emily's wild ride. Hit that subscribe button and drop your guesses in the comments. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. A week after that basement bombshell, Emily found herself in a world she barely recognized. The Caldwell estate on Lake Washington felt less like a home and more like a gilded cage, every polished surface hiding something sharp. She'd barely slept since finding Ethan in that secret lab, his scars and muttered confession. It wasn't an accident. She did it. looping in her head like a broken record. She'd signed up to save her mom, not to unravel a damn conspiracy, but here she was, stuck in the middle of it. Today was the big show. A press conference at Caldwell Tech's headquarters in downtown Seattle, a gleaming skyscraper that stabbed the gray sky. Ethan had insisted she come. Part of the happy couple act to sell their marriage to the world. She stood beside him in the lobby, heels clicking on the polished floor, a borrowed navy blazer pinching her shoulders. The place buzzed like a beehive, suits darting past, phones chirping, whispers trailing her like exhaust fumes. "Gold digger," a woman in a pencil skirt hissed to a colleague loud enough to sting. "She's in it for the cash," another guy muttered, fiddling with his tie as he strode by. "Won't last a month," a third sneered, smirking over his coffee cup. Emily kept her chin up, jaw tight, but the words burrowed under her skin. She wasn't one of them. Never would be. Then Jake Torres cut through the crowd, Ethan's right-hand man, all wiry energy and hazel eyes that twinkled with trouble. He handed her a steaming coffee, grinning like he knew something she didn't. "Welcome to the lion's den," he said, voice low and playful. "They're all waiting for you to trip." She took the cup, fingers brushing his, and forced a smile. "Let 'em wait." He laughed, a quick, real sound that sliced through the tension. "You've got guts, Harper. Good. You're gonna need 'em." The press event was a blur, cameras flashing, Ethan's voice steady as he spun some bullshit about new beginnings and partnerships. His hand rested on hers for a split second, just long enough for the photos, and she smiled like a pro even though her teeth ached from clenching. But something was off. Beyond the polished script, she caught it. Board members swapping quick, pointed glances, conversations dying when she passed, a restlessness simmering under the surface. She lingered outside a glass-walled conference room after, waiting for Ethan to wrap up a meeting. The voices inside were muffled, but one cut through, low and deliberate. "Ethan's a liability. If he doesn't step down soon, we'll make sure he does." Her breath hitched, body pressing against the wall as her pulse hammered. A threat, clear as day. She peeked through the glass, but the speaker's back was to her. Broad shoulders, dark suit, anonymous. She bolted to Ethan's office, the city sprawling behind him through floor-to-ceiling windows. He was hunched over a tablet, face unreadable, the screen's glow carving shadows into his sharp features. "I heard something," she blurted, voice urgent. "Someone in there said you're a liability. They're planning to force you out." He didn't flinch, didn't even look up. "I know," he said, flat, almost bored. Her stomach knotted, frustration boiling over. "And you're not going to do anything about it?" His fingers tapped the armrest, a rare tick of movement. "Let him try." She stared at him, baffled by his arrogance, that unshakable wall he threw up. But as she stood there, she saw it. The tension in his shoulders, the faint clench of his jaw, the way his eyes flickered with something buried deep. He wasn't as invincible as he played it. For a guy with everything, money, power, control, he carried a heaviness that screamed defeat. That night, restless and wired, she slipped out of the estate and hit a dive bar a few blocks from Caldwell Tech. Neon buzzed over the door, rusty anchor, and the air inside smelled of stale beer and regret. She needed a break, a minute to think without Ethan's gray eyes drilling into her. Jake slid onto the stool beside her 10 minutes later, uninvited but not unwelcome, a whiskey in hand. "Rough day in paradise?" he asked, smirking. She snorted, sipping her cheap beer. "You could say that." He leaned in, voice dropping. "You're in over your head, Emily. Walk away while you can." Her grip tightened on the bottle. "I can't, not when I know he could walk again." Jake's smirk faded, eyes narrowing. "You found the lab, didn't you? Look, there's more to Ethan's crash than you think. Don't trust anyone, not even him." Her heart stuttered. "What do you mean?" He glanced around, then lowered his voice to a whisper. "I'm working with someone outside the company to take Vivian down. She's poisoned, but she's not the only one pulling strings. Just watch your back." Before she could press him, he downed his drink and slipped out, leaving her alone with a head full of static. Ethan, hiding a cure. The board plotting a coup. Jake playing double agent. What the hell had she signed up for? Back at the estate, the quiet was suffocating. She paced her room, the $1 million deal feeling more like a noose every day. She'd saved Ruth. The surgery was scheduled, payment cleared. But at what cost? Ethan's coldness, Vivian's threats, Jake's cryptic warning. It was a house of cards waiting to crash. She sank onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, when a memory hit her. An email she'd glimpsed on Ethan's laptop during a late-night coffee run to his office. Something about his mom, Margaret, buried in a spam folder. Curiosity tugged at her, hard. She crept to his study, the mansion dark and still. He was out, some late meeting, so she fired up his laptop. Password guessed from a post-it she'd seen him toss. Maggie 92. The email was there, dated 3 years back. From Margaret Caldwell to an unknown address. "Vivian's up to something. I don't trust her. Watch Ethan." 2 weeks later, Margaret died in a car wreck. Emily's pulse raced, pieces clicking into place. She marched back to Ethan's wing, finding him just rolling in, tie loose, face tired. "Your mom knew something, didn't she?" she snapped, hands on hips. "That's why you're scared to fight back." He froze, then slammed a fist on the desk, voice booming. "You don't get to dig up my past." She didn't back down, stepping closer. "She was warning you about Vivian. What happened to her, Ethan? What happened to you?" His eyes blazed. Gray turned to steel. "Get out!" "No!" she shot back, voice cracking. "You're letting them win! Vivian, the board, whoever! You've got a shot to walk again, and you're just... What? Too proud? Too broken?" He wheeled forward fast, stopping inches from her. "You don't know shit about broken," he growled, low and raw. "I tried, Emily. I failed. End of story." She held his stare, chest heaving, seeing the cracks now, the tremble in his hands, the way his breath hitched. He wasn't just proud. He was terrified. Of hope. Of losing it again. For a second, she wanted to reach out, to break through that wall, but he turned away, shutting her out like always. She stormed back to her room, slamming the door, tears burning her eyes. She'd pegged him wrong, thought it was all ego, but it was fear, deep and ugly, holding him back. And now she was doubting everything. Him, Jake, the deal. The $1 million didn't feel like freedom anymore. It felt like a leash. She flopped onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, one question clawing at her. What's the truth worth if it tears us apart? Hey, y'all. Emily's digging deeper, but is she trusting the right people? Will Ethan let her in or push her out for good? Things are heating up fast. Subscribe now and drop your thoughts in the comments. We're headed for a hell of a twist next time. The Caldwell estate felt like a tomb after that blowout with Ethan. Emily barely slept, her nights a mess of tossing and turning, replaying his words. "You don't know shit about broken," and the raw edge in his voice. She'd seen the fear in him, the scars he hid, and it stuck with her like a splinter she couldn't pull out. By day, she played the part, smiling for the cameras, nodding at board meetings. But inside, she was unraveling. Jake's warning gnawed at her. Don't trust anyone, not even him. She needed answers, and she wasn't waiting for Ethan to hand them over. It was a gray Tuesday when she slipped out, catching a bus to Tacoma, an hour south of Seattle. The air smelled of salt and diesel as she stepped into a rundown diner off the highway. Grease-stained counters, flickering neon buzzing open 24/7. Nora Bennett was waiting in a corner booth, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. A notepad scribbled with ink sprawled in front of her. She was a journalist, sharp-eyed and scrappy, and Emily learned with a jolt, Ethan's childhood best friend. "You're the wife," Nora said, not looking up from her coffee. "Heard you're stirring the pot." Emily slid into the seat, hands fidgeting. "I need to know what happened to him. The crash. Vivian. All of it." Nora's gaze flicked up, assessing. You're in deep, huh? All right, Harper, buckle up. She shoved a folder across the table. Photos, police reports, grainy security stills. Ethan's wreck wasn't just Vivian. She had help. Richard Langston, CEO of Apex Systems, Caldwell Tech's biggest rival. They rigged the brakes, paid off the cops to call it an accident, wanted him out of the game. Emily's stomach dropped, flipping through the pages. A blurry shot showed Vivian meeting Langston in a parking garage, time-stamped a week before the crash. "Why?" she whispered. "Money, power, the usual." Nora leaned in, voice low. "Ethan loved me once, back in high school. After the crash, he shut me out. Everyone out. Thought he deserved it, maybe. You're his last shot, Emily. He won't fight for himself, but he might for you." The words hit like a punch. She stared out the rain-streaked window, the world blurring. Ethan, broken not just by the wreck, but by guilt, loss, a past she was only starting to piece together. "Thanks, Nora," she muttered, pocketing a photo. "I've got work to do." Back at the estate, the air crackled with something dark. Emily couldn't shake Nora's story, or Jake's hunch about bigger players. She'd started noticing things. Staff whispering when she passed, Vivian's late-night calls behind closed doors, a tension that coiled tighter every day. That evening, she crossed the grand foyer, heels echoing on marble, when Vivian intercepted her like a shark cutting through water. Her green eyes glinted, lips curling into a tight smile. "You've served your purpose, sweetie," she said, voice dripping venom. "But this little charade's on borrowed time." Emily squared her shoulders, pulse racing. "You don't scare me." Vivian's smirk deepened. "Maybe you should be." She turned and glided off, leaving a chill in her wake. Emily stood there, fists clenched, questions piling up like bricks. What did she mean? What was she planning? Later, restless and alone, she wandered to Ethan's study. The door was ajar, papers scattered across the desk. Her eyes snagged on a leather journal, half hidden under a stack. Margaret Caldwell's handwriting on the cover. Heart pounding, she flipped it open. The last entry, dated days before Margaret's death. "Vivian knows Ethan's not James's son. She'll never forgive him, or me. I'm scared." Emily's breath caught. Ethan wasn't a Caldwell by blood? That's why Vivian hated him, why she tried to kill him. Before she could process it, the door slammed shut behind her. She spun, and there was Vivian locking the bolt with a click. "Snooping again?" she purred, stepping closer. "You should have taken the money and run, kid." Emily backed up, bumping the desk. "You're sick, Vivian. He's your family." "Family?" Vivian laughed, sharp and bitter. "He's a bastard who stole everything from me. Margaret's dirty little secret." She lunged, faster than Emily expected, shoving her into a storage room off the study. The door slammed, lock turning, trapping her in darkness. Emily pounded the wood, shouting, "Let me out!" But Vivian's heels clicked away, fading to silence. The room smelled of dust and metal, shelves stacked with boxes. Her hands shook as she fumbled through her bag. Phone dead, damn it. But then she found it. A pregnancy test she'd grabbed that morning, half joking after weeks of nausea. In the dim light from a cracked vent, she took it, heart thumping. 2 lines. Pregnant. Her knees buckled, a hand pressing her stomach. Oh God, not now. She was trapped, alone, carrying Ethan's kid, and Vivian was out there plotting. Minutes stretched into hours, her screams hoarse and useless. Then a crash, glass shattering somewhere above. Footsteps fast and uneven. The door flew open and Ethan stood there, leaning hard on a makeshift cane, sweat beading his forehead. Behind him, Jake wrestled a burly guy in a suit, Vivian's muscle, pinning him to the floor. Ethan's gray eyes locked on her, wild with something she hadn't seen before. "You okay?" he rasped, voice rough. She nodded, stumbling toward him. "How..." Jake tipped me off. Said she'd lost it. He stepped closer, shaky but upright, legs trembling from the secret therapy he'd restarted. I'm done running, Em. I need you. Her chest tightened, tears burning as he pulled her into him, his arms strong despite the quiver. She melted against him, the chaos fading for a split second, until Jake's voice cut through. Cops are here. Vivian's toast, but Langston's still out there. This ain't over. Emily pulled back, breathless, Ethan's grip tightening on her hand. Vivian was cuffed outside, screeching as they dragged her away, but Jake was right. Richard Langston was the ghost in the machine, and he wasn't done. She glanced at Ethan, his jaw set, standing taller than she'd ever seen him. He'd fought for her, risked everything, but the war wasn't won. And now, with a babies on the way, the stakes were sky high. They climbed into Jake's truck, the city lights smearing past as rain hammered the windshield. Ethan's hand stayed in hers, warm and steady, but her mind raced. She hadn't told him about the test, about Margaret's journal, about Langston's shadow looming larger than Vivian's. She leaned her head against the window, the photo from Nora crinkling in her pocket, and whispered to herself, "What now?" Hey folks, Ethan's back on his feet, literally, and Vivian's down, but Langston's lurking out there. What's Emily going to do with her big secret? Things are about to explode. Hit that subscribe button and drop your predictions in the comments. You won't believe what's coming in the finale. 3 months had passed since that night in the storage room, and the world felt different, sharper somehow, like the edges had been sanded down, but not quite smoothed out. Emily and Ethan had ditched the Caldwell estate, trading its cold marble for a modest house in Seattle's suburbs. 2 bedrooms, a sagging porch, and a view of Mount Rainier on clear days. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. Ethan was walking now, slow and careful, thanks to the therapy he'd finally stuck with after Emily dragged him back from the edge. The wheelchair sat in the garage gathering dust, a ghost they didn't talk about. Emily stood in the nursery that morning, 6 months pregnant, her belly a gentle curve under her oversized sweater. Twins, the doc had confirmed. A boy and a girl, a double dose of chaos from that reckless night in the study when Ethan's walls had cracked wide open. She ran a hand over the 2 cribs they'd painted, blue for him, yellow for her, smiling at the faint kicks against her palm. Ruth was better too, back home in Portland, her lungs patched up with the money Emily had scraped together from waitressing and tutoring before Ethan's million hit. She'd earned it the hard way, and it felt good, cleaner than the deal she'd walked away from. Ethan shuffled in behind her, his steps still uneven but stronger every day. He slid his arms around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder, and she leaned into him, breathing in the cedar and coffee scent that was all him. "What do we name 'em?" he murmured, voice soft, teasing. She grinned, tilting her head. "Something tough like you, and fearless like me." He chuckled, a low rumble she felt in her chest. "Deal." It was a quiet moment, the kind they'd fought tooth and nail for, but peace never lasted long in their story. The doorbell rang, sharp and sudden, shattering the stillness. Ethan tensed, his grip tightening for a second before he let go. "Stay here," he said, grabbing the cane he still used on rough days. She followed anyway, heart thudding, because staying put wasn't her style anymore. Jake stood on the porch, his face grim, rain dripping off his jacket. "We've got a problem," he said, voice tight. "Langston's here." Emily's stomach dropped as a black SUV screeched to a stop in the driveway. Richard Langston stepped out, tall, silver-haired, a shark in a 3-piece suit. Vivian's arrest had taken her out of the game, but Langston was the real puppet master, the one who'd bankrolled the crash that stole Ethan's legs. He strode up, ignoring Jake, his cold blue eyes locking on Emily. "Nice setup," he said, smirking. "Cozy. Shame it won't last." Ethan squared his shoulders, cane tapping the floor. "Get off my property," Langston laughed, dry and cutting. "Oh, I'm not here to fight Caldwell. I'm here to deal." He pulled a briefcase from the SUV, popping it open to reveal stacks of cash. Crisp, green, obscene. $2 billion. Walk away, Emily. Hand me Caldwell Tech, and you and your little family can disappear. No strings. Her breath caught, the number slamming into her like a freight train. $2 billion. Enough to bury every worry, every debt, every late-night panic about diapers and daycare. She glanced at Ethan, his jaw clenched, eyes blazing with something fierce. "Tell him to shove it," he growled, but there was a flicker in his voice. Fear she'd say yes. Langston stepped closer, voice dropping. "Refuse, and I'll burn it all down. Your kids included. I don't bluff." The threat hit her like ice water, her hand instinctively shielding her belly. She saw red, rage, fear, a mama bear instinct she didn't know she had. "You don't touch them," she snapped, stepping forward close enough to smell his cologne. "You don't touch us." Langston's smirk faltered, but he opened his mouth to push until Ethan cut in, voice steady as steel. "You're done, Richard." He pulled a phone from his pocket, hitting play. Langston's voice crackled through, "Rig the brakes, make it clean." A recording from months back, dug up by Jake's contacts. "Cops have it too. You're toast." Langston's face drained of color, the briefcase slipping from his hand. Tires squealed down the street, 2 squad cars roaring up, lights flashing. He bolted for the SUV, but Jake tackled him, pinning him to the wet grass as cuffs clicked shut. "Game over, asshole," Jake muttered, hauling him up. Emily exhaled, legs shaky, watching the cops drag Langston away. Ethan turned to her, dropping the cane, standing tall despite the tremble in his knees. "You okay?" he asked, voice rough. She nodded, tears prickling. "Yeah, we are." Dusk settled over the house, painting the sky in streaks of gold and purple. They sat on the porch, a blanket draped over their legs, the adrenaline fading to a quiet hum. Ethan took her hand, thumb brushing her knuckles, then slid off the step, lowering himself to one knee, right there on the warped wood. Her heart stopped, eyes widening as he looked up at her, gray eyes soft, unguarded. "I don't need a contract," he said, voice firm but thick. "I need you, Em. No more money, no more deals, just us." He pulled a simple silver ring from his pocket, nothing flashy, just real. "Marry me. For real this time." Tears spilled over, hot and fast, but she laughed through them, a shaky, giddy sound. "Stop making it about money," she said, fingers brushing his jaw, "and start making it about us." His face broke into a grin, rare, bright, lighting him up, and he stood, pulling her close. His lips found hers, soft at first, then fierce. A kiss that poured out every fight, every fear, every quiet hope they'd built together. She melted into him, arms around his neck, the world shrinking to just them. The rain, the porch, the twins kicking between them. When they parted, foreheads pressed, he whispered, "I've missed you," thumb wiping her cheek. "You're standing," she said, voice catching. "You're really standing." "Thanks to you," he murmured, raw and grateful. "You fought for me when I wouldn't. I was a fool to let you go." She nestled closer, hand in his. "Don't shut me out again." "Never," he promised, kissing her forehead, then her lips, slow and lingering, a vow sealed in the fading light. Jake cleared his throat from the driveway, smirking. "Hate to break up the love fest, but Vivian's out on bail. Found a loophole. She's pissed." Emily tensed, Ethan's grip tightening, but he didn't flinch. "Let her try," he said, voice calm, resolute. "She won't touch us." He turned to Emily, eyes fierce. "We'll face it together, you, me, and them." His hand slid to her belly, wonder softening his face. She nodded, resolve hardening. They'd built this. Scars, twins, a future, and no one was taking it away. Inside, the nursery waited, 2 cribs side by side, a life carved out of chaos. It wasn't perfect, wasn't easy, but it was theirs. A beginning, not an end. Hey, y'all! Emily and Ethan beat the odds, but Vivian's lurking out there. Would you have taken the cash or stayed for love? That's a wrap. Subscribe now and drop your thoughts in the comments. What's next for these two? Stick around for more stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.